during fall when I'm abroad. So you can always email either of us with any questions, or we have another email address. We have info@phoenixscholars.org, which is a general email that you can email any type of question. But there's also one that you're going to receive a specific contact information sheet during your cohort meeting that is called tpsprogramming@gmail.com, and that's where any questions about like mentees or mentors can go. So if you have a unresponsive mentee who doesn't respond to your phone calls or emails, whatever, make sure you contact us and let us know so we can reassign you, kick them out of the program, whatever. So our expectations of you, it's really important that we have good mentors, because I actually was making phone calls a couple weeks ago just trying to check in with some of the mentees from last year and figure out where they got into college. And one person told me that his mentor never ever contacted him, and they thought it was because they were poor that their mentor wouldn't talk to them. So that was really sad, and we're trying to avoid that because we're here to help mentees, and we want to create a relationship with them, and at the very least, help them through this process. So what you'll be getting from the Phoenix Scholars is monthly emails, just based on deadlines, what's going on, what maybe extra handouts that might be helpful, though we try to condense as much as possible into the packet we're giving you today. Another thing is just important information and also surveys that we might have for you. So pretty much we are going to be asking you most of the time whether your mentee is being responsive or not. And that's going to be one of the main things, and also information that you might have collected from your mentee about where he's applying, if he's going to do Questbridge, things like that. And then the last thing that we will be doing is we're going to have cohort meetings, which I'll talk about in a second. But what we expect from you is that you're going to check your email and respond to us, and then complete all the surveys and information forms that we send out. And then, most importantly, communicate with us if you're having any problems with your mentees. Because as I said, we can reassign you, we can talk to your mentee, we can do a lot of things, but we can't help you unless we know what's actually going on. And then the last thing we expect from you is to attend monthly cohort meetings. And they're only going to be once a month through September, October, November, and December, and then one today. And this is just, we're going to use this time to talk about what's going on with your mentor, what's going on with your mentee, and just information that you need to know, and really another check-in time. So I know as a mentor I had a lot of questions. I didn't really know what I was doing because I hadn't applied to a lot of the colleges that my mentee was applying to, so I was able to use the cohort meeting as an opportunity to ask questions that I couldn't answer on behalf of my mentee, or just to learn more information about certain forms that my mentee might have to fill out. Also, we're going to use the opportunity to highlight deadlines and just check in with you guys. And we'll be sending out linked meets, so it will be mandatory that you guys attend because we're going to organize it based around when you guys are free. Okay, and so you guys actually received a packet, and you received just one sheet of paper. If you haven't, there's more in the back. And it's pretty much just the terms of agreement, so just what you need to know what you need to commit to if you're committing to a mentee for the next year. So just the basics are, be ready to commit 1 to 2 hours to work with your mentee a week. It's going to be a little less in the summer and a lot around Thanksgiving. Just warning you, that's if your mentee doesn't really follow the deadlines. Ideally they will. Mine didn't last year, so we spent some time during Thanksgiving break working on her essays. But we also just expect you guys to be available by Skype or phone and email throughout the summer and throughout fall quarter and winter quarter next year. And then, I can't stress this enough, but please contact either tpsprogramming@gmail.com, my email, which was on the previous slide, or Ferris, or info@phoenixscholars.org if you have any problems with your mentee whatsoever. And then, aside from that, attend cohort meetings and then commit to your mentee. Okay, so today, during our cohort meetings, which will be after a couple more presentations, you guys can sit through it, I believe in you guys. But we are going to give you your mentee's contact information, and then you'll be responsible for reaching out to them in the next 2 weeks. We expect you to make a phone call, but we also expect you to send them an email. And we want to be CC'd on that email based on your cohort leader, which we'll explain more. but we want to just make sure that you're actually contacting them, because if you guys don't initiate the contact, the mentee is kind of like left hanging, which is kind of sad. And we tried to match you guys with people that were compatible. So maybe if you did a sport, your mentee does that sport. If you went to a high school next door to the other high school that they went to, hopefully there's something you have in common. It might be small, but hopefully there's one thing. And sometime this month, make sure to initiate contact and, as I said, CC your cohort leader, which we'll talk about. Last thing is just your communication with your mentee. So to build a relationship with them, it's required that you contact them every other week. We recommend once a week, and based on whenever they start doing their essays, it may be more, but it should never be less than every other week. All right, and I found it especially helpful to use texting with my mentees. It doesn't work for everyone. I do use Facebook with them, but texting was a really easy way to get their attention, to be like, hey, I sent you an email, check it, or did you do this? Question. And it's much easier for quick contact, but yeah. And then really this is the last time I'm going to say it, but if you think you're having a hard time with your mentee or connecting with them, please let us know. If your mentee is unresponsive, we do have a waiting list, so we will assign you a new mentee. And then the last thing is just if at any point you don't feel like you can commit to your mentee anymore, and besides like communication issues or something else, please let us know, because we don't want a situation where a mentee who really wants this assistance can't get it, and they were admitted to the program just because the mentor doesn't have time for them.
Okay, I'm Mary. I'm a sophomore, and I'm part of the outreach committee. So last year was my first year being a part of Phoenix Scholars. I remember when I was applying to college, I didn't have much help. I was the first person in my family who applied, and so they weren't really helpful. They couldn't do much. They didn't know about the essay. Like, they paid for everything, but they didn't actually know what I needed to do. So when I joined my mentee, his name was Navjo, and he wanted to come to Stanford, and I was like, oh, that's great. Stanford's a tough school to get into, but he was really amazing. He was on everything. We built a great relationship. I helped him with his essays. I personally didn't think I did much. He got his scores, was a great student, edited a few essays, and he got in, and he came for an early admin retreat, and he brought his family with him, and I met his whole family, and they had a gift for me, and his father said that I became a part of their family's history because I had helped his son get in, and it was the most amazing feeling to hear that from someone, to feel that they were so appreciative of me just helping their son. I just read a few essays, helped them out a little bit, but it really, really mattered to them, and it mattered to him, and we built a relationship. I keep in contact with him. He came here for Admit Weekend, and he met a few of the Phoenix Scholars people, but it was literally, it is such a rewarding program when the kids come back to you and they're so happy, and their family are so happy for what you've done to them. So even any little thing that you do does mean a lot to them. So it's important that you stay in contact with your mentee and you do what you're supposed to do, because they care and they're happy to do what you're doing.
How are you all doing? Good. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to ask was, why are you guys doing this? And I know this may seem like it seems like an obvious question, but I want to, if someone wants to volunteer, or I'll choose, but a couple people just it's really important. I have a purpose why I'm doing this. So can someone tell me, why are you doing this? Why did you join? I can start choosing. Yes.
I'm joining because I really would have liked to have someone to help me out while I was going through this process, so I just want to be that person for someone else.
Okay. How many of you feel that way? You can raise your hand. Okay. Any other? Someone else? Yeah.
So I had a really great college counselor, and I know what it took, how much extra she put into helping me, and so I want to be able to be that person for someone who doesn't have that.
Okay, cool. So the reason why I asked that is because I think it's a very important question to understand why you are here and why you are doing what you're doing. Because I think that the people that you're going to be meeting a wide swatch of students, and so you're going to be getting students from all different types of backgrounds, and it may not be easy, it may be easy, whatever it is, but it's good to have a core of why you're doing what you're doing, so at the end of the day, you are pushing towards something. And the reason why I say that was because I didn't necessarily have a good experience with my mentor. But what I learned from that is that one person doesn't define an organization, and that's the same thing with our experiences with our mentees. We're human, we make mistakes, we do things wrong. But if you have a goal that you're pushing towards and everything that you're doing, that's the thing that's going to stand out at the end of this entire process, which is life-changing for many people. And so, for example, you may have a mentee like Mariana's who was on top of it, and she would tell me like, I'm just so proud of him and all these things, and you're just on top of the world. And you still have that goal of, okay, I'm going to get them to this place or help them get to that place, or I see that they're really good in school, but I can tell that socially, maybe I want to encourage them in this position, and I know that I can offer da-da-dee-da-da for this individual. And you guys all have strengths. And I think that, especially for students that are coming in with the need for motivation, a lot of these students are coming in and they're saying, I don't know what to do. I need the guidance. You and yourself have said, this is what I can offer you, and you're working towards a goal with them. And so, that I think it's a very, very important thing, because I know that for me and my mentor that wasn't necessarily established. And when I was just kind of let go, I guess you can say, I was like, oh no, but I knew that at the core there was something really important about this organization and what it stood for. And I had the opportunity to talk to Michael, which was kind of like Michael Tubbs-Stefano, which was the beginning of like our really good relationship. And I had written this email, like, how we Stanford students, like, we know how to write those emails. Like, for our last conversation, you did respond. I wrote that to my mentor. And then the response was like, okay, cool, good luck with the process. And I was like, oh my goodness. But I knew that there was something more to that. And so Michael called me the day before he was going to South Africa on his trip and was like, he looked at my stuff and was like, no, it seems like everything's going good. And he's like, how are you feeling? And I was like, wow, okay, I felt good. And I was like, can I get to Stanford? Because I think, no. After I found out that I was getting to Stanford, I was like, I'm going to join this organization because I knew that it stood for something more. And so, as a mentee, we don't, and your mentees don't know who you all are. They don't know, they don't see us sitting in this room thinking about how we're going to help other people. And so it's really important that even in your mistakes, or even when you don't quite get everything perfect, you're conveying that purpose that you have, so that they know that there's something greater behind this. Because like me, their experience, whatever it may be, just the college experience in general may not be great, but at the end of the day, they know this is an organization that helped me, and they may know another friend and say, hey, if you're thinking of applying to schools or whatever it is, contact these people because I know that they stand for a really good cause. So I can open it up to questions, but that's my story. I love to talk, and I love to hear about it.
How is it being a mentor? The other side.
Excellent. I actually had, so my mentee has come from really, really difficult circumstances. And he had actually chosen to live with a friend in order to go to the school that he's at, which is like the first time in his life that he's ever been in school for more than 3 months, because he was taking, he's lived in cars, the whole 9 yards. And so when I met with him, I said this is going to be a life-changing process. I was like, I'm just going to be real with you. I'm not going to just read your essays. I was like, I'm not the type of person that I want you to grow out of this. And it was a lot, and that's another thing. You guys are going to be faced with a lot of different things because we are all human, and your mentee, as I've had, may be crying on the phone to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, you got to. This is supposed to be a 30-minute conversation. You have to be like, okay, okay, here we go. So what's wrong? So you really do take on the role sometimes of counselor and friend. And a lot of times, I know many of you, you write about personal things in your essay, and so you kind of know a lot about these people just by proxy of the fact of what they're writing. And so with me, it's, like I said, if you establish something like, this is what I'm going to be able to offer you. I can't promise you that you're going to get into Stanford, I can't, but I can promise you that of the best of me, I know that I have a friend who's an athlete, and it's just balls to the wall, we'll do anything, I will work with you until 4 in the morning if that's what it takes, and the person knows that you're invested with them in your capacity. And so for me, I felt like I was able to do that, and to see him being able to succeed and go to college, one is one of the schools that he was really desiring to go to. It's like, knowing where he's come from is really, when you're in it, you're just like, I gotta get you there. And then when it's over, oh my goodness, I really was able to help him. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's me. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about the personal statement, and I'm sure that's something that everybody's familiar with since I'm sure you all wrote one in order to get into here. But I'm just going to give you a little refresher and give you some tips on how you can help your mentees during this process. So we asked in the program, we asked our mentees to write 4 different types of essays. So we asked them to write the why this college essay, the world essay, the influential person essay, and the significant event essay. So I'm sure you guys will remember some of these. So we asked them to write those 4. And so the purpose of each essay is really to explain why a college should invest in you and what you bring to the college. So that's really important because there's a lot of misconceptions around what the purpose of a personal statement is, but it's important to know what the real purpose is. And it puts a face to like your resume and all your SAT scores and everything, and it provides insight into worldviews and character, your personality, who you are. Essentially, it's putting face to your whole application process. And the point is to convey enthusiasm and passion and creativity, and you want the admissions officers, once they read it, to have an impression of who you are. So, like I said, there's a lot of common misconceptions, but let's just go ahead and through all of this so you guys can't read it, but important for your mentees to have in their essays is, was there a moment where they showed growth? Like, did they grow? Did they overcome some sort of adversity? So there's growth, there's initiative. If there's something that they took initiative, there's perseverance. Did they demonstrate perseverance in the face of adversity? And then there's personality. So you want your personality to shine through. So like I said, common misconceptions. That personal statements are supposed to have a lot of imagery and a lot of like fancy language, and that it's supposed to be long and read like a novel, and it's supposed to demonstrate that you have good writing skills. Those things, like writing is important, but that's not the sole purpose of the essay. And like I said before, it's about growth, perseverance, initiative, those kind of things. So yeah, so the why this college essay, so that's when they ask like, what do you want to go to this college? I know Stanford asked that one, I think it was on the Common App. So the point of this one, you want to sell yourself subtly. So you don't just want to say why you want to go there, but you want to also see why the college wants you to go there as well. So you want to do your research, be specific, don't be really general, like, I want to go there because they have palm trees and it's really nice. Like, if your mentee writes something like that, it's going to be very general, and as the admission officer said, when they're general, you can kind of slap anybody's name on it. It's not going to like make you stand out. And you want to avoid cliches such as like, dream school, Stanford's my dream school, and it's prestigious college, quality education, all that kind of stuff. So here's some examples that we can read through. We can kind of see the difference between the two. So one, I envision Stanford as a place where I can explore history with students who are as passionate as I am, but have different points of view. I envision Stanford as a place where I can write an honors thesis using historical evidence from the special collections archives and studying one-on-one with professors in directed reading. So you can see in this example, it's very specific. You can tell they did research. They know that they have special collections archives. And then the next one, I want to attend Stanford because it's my dream school. The quality of the education is unmatched, and I can do much more than I could in high school. I particularly like the style of buildings in the warm weather, and I also hear the food is really good. So you see the comparison between the two. The second one, very general. Like I said, anybody could have wrote that. It's not very specific to you. It shows the school nothing about you, really. So the point, even though it's asking why you want to go to this college, you still have to, or your mentees still have to be able to show through their personality in it. So the influential person essay, so the question like, describe a person that has had a great influence on your life. So there's a few things you want to consider and a few things you want to avoid. The first one is consider writing about a person that's outside of your family. So maybe you want to tell your mentees, maybe someone who's your mentor or a coach or a teacher or something like that. Maybe you want to tell them to start looking for things like that. And you want to cite specific, unique examples about your experience and highlight how this person has acted as a catalyst for growth or change. And some things you want to avoid is writing about historical figures such as MLK and Gandhi. There's probably a gazillion essays about how influential Martin Luther King is. And although they are influential, it's very cliche and it won't make your mentee stand out any. And you don't want to spend the majority of your essay talking about the influential person. You really also want to make sure that you're conveying who you are as a student and or as an individual. And like I said before, general statements, avoid those. And the world essay, so describe the world you come from, for example, your family, community, or school, and tell us how your world has shaped your dreams and aspirations. So they'll also be writing an essay on this one. And like I said before, imagery is not the entire answer, so you don't have to literally describe the world that you come from. And you want to focus in on your world, focus on specific aspects of it, and demonstrate maturity and strength. And describe how the world changes or has changed your perspectives, and also how your world may change once you transition into that college experience. So here are two other ones, like you can do the comparison. I'll read it really quickly. I walk down the bustling hallways with Terminal Gate. My destination is hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away, yet I maintain a quiet eagerness. I look forward not only to the exciting atmosphere of the new destination, but also the expansion of my worldviews. The Partnership Scholars Program, an organization that provides financial support for low-income students, not only foster my love of new places and ideas, but ultimately cultivated my personality and matured my curiosity. So you can see how they talk about their world, but then they also talk about what the world did for them and like who they are. Then the second one, not really much of themselves, and it's the sky slowly receded towards the horizon. You see all the imagery, stars sprinkled, the previously blue sky, and sat in the jacuzzi of the ship that was to be my home for the following month. This was the last week of the summer before I started my junior year, and I joined the Top Sail Club on a trip to sail around the Catalina Islands. Tired from the day of hauling and easing, I sat relishing the night's reprieve and marveled at the great expanse of revealed itself to me. So you can see a lot of imagery, a lot of fancy language, but it doesn't really say much about the person. So when you're talking to your mentees about these essays, make sure when they write this one that they also talk about themselves. And then the significant event essay, evaluate a significant experience, achievement, risk you've taken, or ethical dilemma you have faced and its impact on you. So things you want to consider. Write about an event that most people can't write about, so you don't want to do something very generic that everyone has experienced. Evaluate the impact that the event has had on you before, so do a lot of reflection during this time so you can figure out what impact it's had on you. And yeah, the impact of a lesson doesn't have to be positive. That's the key things. I think a lot of times people always want to show like, yes, and I tried and did this, but sometimes bad things have to happen before good things happen, so it's good to talk about the growth and the perseverance. And then you want to avoid exaggerating, so if you write about a game in the moment, keep it real. You don't want to be like, lying, I hit a grand slam, and, things like that. So you just want to make sure that it is real in reality and not exaggerated. So common issues that mentees have had and general students have with personal statements is the family syndrome. So spending too much time talking about your family as opposed to talking about yourself. So that tends to happen a lot in these essays. So you, like I said before, make sure that it's them because it's their personal statement. The imagery disease, like you've seen in the other one, so a lot of excessive use of imagery. And so it's a statement, not an opposite, that concise about you. The replaceable names, so like the admissions officer talked about, your essays could belong to anyone. So if they drop their essay on the floor without their name on it, and they could write anyone's name on it and it's still hold true, that's not good. So it should be personal to them. It's personal safety. Intellectual gagging, so your language and sentence structure is over the top as a result of you trying to prove that you're smart. We all know, everyone has their own level of smartness, so you don't have to prove it by using 1,000 big words to show that, and you also don't want to be really cliche and show that you want to change the world and things like that. So key points is just making sure they're not general, very specific. They should be very specific and personal to them. So tips that you can tell your mentees, they make sure that one, you read their essays before they turn them in, so you can edit them, help them go with that. They can also have other adults read them, so even if you want, maybe one of your friends can read it to go over, or they can have someone else that they know read over it. And you want to start thinking about and starting to write now, so you can so they can give themselves enough time, because there's going to be a lot of drafts until they get the masterpiece. So show and don't tell who they really are. So these are all tips you can take back to your mentees, and hopefully they have awesome college essays. Yeah, that's it. Any questions?
I know it's hot. I'll be the last presentation for today. Bear with me. I'm hot too. But I'm going to go through personal statement strategies. A lot of it is going to be me kind of talking anecdotally about how I kind of handled the situation with my mentee, Juan Rodriguez. He's the homie. Forever would be his mentor. Okay. So yeah, personal statement strategies. So basically the first thing is brainstorming and essay writing. We're going to try to give you guys access, probably read only, because we don't want you to mess anything up, but access to their application, so you can look through kind of what they wrote to get into the program in the first place. Phoenix College isn't like the most selective organization in the world, but we really do hand select these mentees and really like had the phone call to make sure that they got in, to make sure that they actually were a part of the program, and heard so many screams. Like we could go for days about the reactions of these kids once they realized they were in the program. So like we really kind of picked these people for a reason. We picked these students for a reason, mostly because they wanted to be in the program, and that's what we're about. We're not about selecting the best students who ever walked the face of the planet. We're about getting the students who really want our help so that we can provide that assistance. So we're going to give you access to read the application, see the strengths and weaknesses in the application. So a lot of the applications, we didn't go for grammar, content, stuff like that. We didn't go for grammar, we went really for will they be a good asset or benefit from mentorship throughout the program. So we're going to give you guys access so you can see the grammatical errors that they may have. Some people, English may be their second language, so they might struggle with that a little bit. Maybe they talked about something extensively throughout their whole entire application, like they really wanted to be a doctor, and they talked about that literally in every question. That's something you want to bring up to them in their first interaction with them. Maybe we literally paired you all because one of you were pre-med and the other person was, and the mentee really wanted to be a doctor. Like stuff like that, really interested in help. So we're going to give you guys access so you can have that in mind before even the brainstorm session begins. Also, we want you to ask your mentee about how much they've written in the past. Some people have never wrote more than whatever 4 pages. Some people write a lot. Maybe they're in an IB program and just writes like all day. So we're going to make sure you all have access to that too. And also set deadlines and expectations with your mentees. So as Shelby was saying before, your first interaction with your mentee hopefully is going to be through a phone call. We don't want you to have your first meeting through email. You know what I mean? We want you to have that same level of interaction that we had when we called everybody to make sure that they got in. We want you all to have kind of a more personal relationship that you'll only get through speaking to somebody on the phone or Skype call. My first interaction with Juan was like a Skype call, and literally changed my life. That's one of the most inspirational people I know in life. I'll be calling him up yo, can you help me with blah blah blah. He's all but as I don't know if Irene touched on this, I don't remember her touching on it, but in order to be a Phoenix Scholar, you have to be either low income, minority, and or first generation. You have to be at least 2 out of the 3. So all of our students, your mentee or mentees, will have that in common. But the big thing about these students, colleges want to see that. Like that's an added part of the diversity that they want to see on their campuses. So to make sure that they highlight that in their application is a big thing. Not to solely talk about that for the entire time. It's about getting a well-rounded view of that applicant. But at the same time, you want them to stress the fact that their obstacles, their struggles, the fact that they went through all this stuff and are still able to apply to this program, still able to do the great things that they're doing, still able to have that same motivation to succeed. We want them to touch on that. So make sure during the brainstorming, when you tell them to brainstorm about topics, essay topics and stuff like that, for them to have that in mind. Choose 3 topics ideas they're interested in writing about as mini essays. So I did this with my mentee Juan as well. Basically, my first conversation with him, I literally was just bouncing off ideas just to figure out who Juan was, like who are you, what do you do in life, like what excites you. Juan's one of those people that talk about his family, about everything. Like literally his motivation in life is to make sure that his family is okay, like after he graduates, gets to college, graduates from college, all that type of stuff. He also wants to be an automobile engineer. Those are like the 2 big things I got out of the conversation. So I told him to write 3 mini essays about what kind of impact, what's the big impact he had in his life. So obviously he spoke about automobile engineering, he spoke about his family, he spoke about wanting to give back to the community, but he only wrote a paragraph for each of these things. So I talked to him about like, what you really want to get out of this essay, what you really want to get out of this paragraph. So he wrote about those and was able to see like, I didn't really like that. Or like when we talked on the conversation, most of your mentees, they're probably going to submit, like you give them a deadline on Friday, they're probably going to write it up Friday, right before the deadline. Like that's how we are, that's how humans are. You know what I mean? So they probably didn't have a chance to really think about really what they wrote. So that's a good time for you to meet with them and talk to them like, what do you mean by this? What do you really want to get out of this essay? And it was a good time for Juan to be like, yo, like, yeah, I do want to be an automobile engineer. Why did I want to be that? And I was like, yeah, like, why do you want to be that? He was like, I don't know. I played with cars a lot when I was little. I was like, oh, you play with cars? Like, what kind of cars? Oh, I play with Hot Wheels. He wanted to write this final essay on like how Hot Wheels like made him want to be an automobile engineer. It was like an amazing essay. I was like, yo, you're like, get this. Anyway, it all came from these 3 little mini essays that happened where his ideas were able to come together and really put that to fruition. Also, something that Tori was talking about earlier, experience is not your life story. Like we're not pinpointing in this essay really how you got to where you are in life. Like that's not what the college essay is supposed to do. That's not what any of these essays are supposed to do. It's supposed to pinpoint a specific experience, a specific action, moment in your life, and then expand that to why you deserve to be at this institution, what aspects you grew from, what you learned, things like that. Make sure they're not just telling a story, but analyzing their experiences, kind of similar to what I said. It's a moment. It's about when Juan first saw the Hot Wheel, what excited him about it, the body of the car, all that type of stuff, the engine, the motor. He wanted to design things like that. Like that's where we got the story from. That's where we got the meat from, and that's what hopefully helps him get into college through that. Writing the first draft. So the first draft, have them write literally with no bearings. Like this is a topic you want to choose. If he wants to write 2, if he or she wants to write 2 or 3 essays, let them do that. Like just let them go. Like like this is essay. First draft, just write something. And they're gonna write, Juan wrote like 2 paragraphs. And like, I didn't have no problem. I was like, this is the first draft, like, I just let them know, like, it may have to be longer, going down the road. But he was able to just write, free write what he wanted to write about. No word limit, no anything like that, just write. And not overemphasizing proper wording. So you're literally just writing. He's writing a story, he's writing about what they want to write about. Any specific moment, just make sure, hopefully they're writing about a moment, experience, and impact in their life, not just their life in general. And then make sure that they incorporate that mini essay. What was the point of the mini essay? They really pinpoint a moment, pinpoint everything that they wanted to talk about in one little small paragraph. So make sure they try to incorporate that in the essay at some point. So now when you're editing that first draft, so what I did with Juan, I told him, give him a deadline or whatever. It came like 2 days after that. Let's not talk about that. But gave him a deadline. He brought it in, emailed it to me. I put it in a Google Doc like Stanford students do. Made a couple comments on the bottom. Didn't edit any wording. Didn't edit any grammatical mistakes. Really just pinpointed the things I told you before. Is it an experience? Did you enjoy writing it? Did I enjoy reading it? Just to make sure that they knew that he really knows what he wants to do, what he wants to do with the essay. And make sure that you focus on the content and the structure. Make sure, literally, it was like a good essay that he felt like he was excited writing the essay. Like that's what that first draft is about. Not about word limit, like it was still 2 paragraphs that he wrote. Just reading it to make sure it structurally works and the content was good. Something that I would want to read, something that the admissions officers would want to read. If you don't want to read it, they probably don't want to read it either. Just like I was saying before. Is there a thesis? Talked about that. Is it more than just a recollection of events? So something particular that really changed their life. Don't focus on grammar. Talked about that. Excessive imagery, too much background information. Cliche conclusion story. Talked about that too. It's all about authentic self. Like this is your voice. This is their voice. That's what we talk about. Make sure that that all comes through. Same editing the first draft. Discuss the first drafts on the phone. So there's a lot of misconceptions that can happen if you just receive an essay, send some comments, and just send it back to them. That really doesn't help them. They really need to, especially the first draft, you're not talking about grammar anyway. Like it's about content. It's about where this essay is right now, where it needs to go. So the best thing to do is kind of have that phone conversation, have a Skype conversation. Juan just wanted, like he likes Skype, so like we just did a whole bunch of Skype. It was real annoying because you can't have a Google Doc with Skype. It was like frustrating, but that's what he wanted, so we worked it out. Every mentee is going to be different. You might have 2 mentees and one wants something the other doesn't. You'll have to work that out within your relationship with them. But please try to have that first draft conversation, at least the first draft conversation, on phone or through Skype, so they actually get to see the emotion, they actually get to see your what you're trying to say, you're able to explain it well, and stuff like that. Prepare your comments before the conversation. Obviously, don't schedule a meeting with them and you didn't look at the essay yet. You're like reading the essay with them on the phone. That's not constructive at all. Be respectful of their personal information. So it's kind of a two-way street. Some mentees will really just, first conversation, they're going to tell you everything. Like, everything. So like, be prepared for that. Other mentees, you'll have to work there. Maybe you don't even want to know all that information, which, I mean, that's up to you. But some mentees will really just let you know everything about them. Some will be a little more guarded, but in terms of respecting that personal information regardless, whether they told you that, like, yeah, I just want to tell you my whole life story, or whether they did not, it's not right for you to just kind of tell everybody. Make sure that you're sensitive about their personal information, especially if you kind of convey to them that you want this essay to be personal, you want it to be a very impactful event. Make sure you respect that for them. On average, try to return the essay to your mentee within 48 hours. So Shelby was talking before about you all contacting us if they're unresponsive. They're going to let us know every bit of the way whether y'all are unresponsive. Trust me, it happens every year. They're like, oh, mentor, I just responded in 2 hours. I'm like, yo, it's been 2 hours. Like, it's okay. They're probably in class for 2 hours. Like, it'll be all right. So make sure you try to get them back and make sure you're open with them about that. If you're a person that's on your email 24/7, make sure you tell them that. If you're a person that only checks your email once a day, you may slip through the cracks. All that will happen. But we're here as cohort leaders, we're here as staff to make sure that we kind of are the middleman between you two. But the relationship is really, Phoenix Scholars can work literally without anybody on cohort. Gladly you don't have that. You have a whole team of people behind you, but it's all about your relationship with your mentee, to make sure that comes to fruition. So make sure you try to be respectful of their time, they'll be respectful of your time. We won't get any crazy emails like they haven't responded in the last 20 minutes. We'll all be good, everybody's happy. Continuing to edit drafts. By drafting, that should be at or under the word limit. It actually took me a lot more drafts to get on and just write more. But that'll work out with you all. Just try by draft 3 to get them to get to the place where they actually can submit this essay. And edit for the way that they can get their ideas and post ideas. We talked about that. Cliche conclusions, talked about that. Transitions are very big. Make sure that they're especially draft 3, like you hit content a lot. Now go towards grammar, go towards structure. Make sure that the essay is coherent, stuff like that. Become more progressively more selective about word choice and phrasing and all that. Is what I was talking about before. When you call a draft a final draft, you stop editing ideas as opposed to stop. So now you've basically is there. It's now just going through grammar, make sure everything makes sense, make sure it's something that is not going to knock them down in that application process or admissions process just because something is spelled wrong or there's grammar mistakes. That's when you know they're comfortable, everybody's happy, they read their essay really excited. I did that a lot with Juan too. Like I'd read the essay, be like, yo, like just read this out loud. And he'd read the first sentence, like with does that like excite you? Would you want to read more? And he was like, no, whatever. And I was like, okay, so like let's change that sentence. So make sure that's a very good tip too. Having your mentee read it out loud, like I said, they probably just wrote it and sent it to you. They probably didn't have that much time. They probably didn't write an outline or something like that before the essay. So just having them hear it, or you reading it to them, regardless, it'll help them for them to hear it and see if it actually makes sense, if it's actually something that engages them, something that they want to talk about. When you know your mentee clearly on paper, by draft 3 or whatever, draft 5, whatever, you'll get to know them. You've probably already had a whole bunch of conversations with them. You'll know exactly what they're about, exactly how they are as a person, and want them to be, and you want that to be in the essay. Like I already said, if they pick up an essay with no name on it, you want to be able to know that it's small, you know what I mean?
So who's heard about Questbridge so far? Okay, good amount of you. So Questbridge has 2 programs, the College Prep Scholarship and National College Match. What your mentees will be applying to is the National College Match. It kind of works like ComNat, where you will have pretty much a process where you submit 2 essays, recommendations. However, somewhat like the early admission, the actual application is actually due September, like late September. It's a whole month before any ComNat early applications are due. So what that means is that you're going to have to submit your applications really early, your mentees are actually have to submit their applications really early, somewhat in July, August, and by then they'll have it fleshed out so that by the end of September they have something to produce. We're actually going to have like a plan for you guys, so we're going to give you a calendar if your mentees do decide to do Questbridge. And so please let us know. Please tell them about Questbridge. It's for low-income students who pretty much have experienced some kind of hardship in their past, and it really lets students talk about that in addition to their applications and their achievements. I myself, I was a Questbridge finalist. I'm a Questbridge scholar now. Pretty much, I came from Oakland. I have a low-income background. I applied to Questbridge. I applied to 2 colleges, Stanford, Princeton. I actually ended up being denied. So in the first application wave, it's something called the college match process, where if you're matched, you get into that school. I actually was not matched the first time, so I actually thought it was completely over. I was never going to get into Stanford. All my dreams was gone. I seriously went crazy. Applied to 2 more colleges, which is ridiculous. I should never have done that. But then Michael Tubbs gave me a call. He told me it was going to be all right. He was also rejected. And a couple of months later, I submitted all my applications, got into Stanford, and now I'm here. So that's pretty much my background. so that's pretty much my background in Questbridge. Currently, I'm a Questbridge scholar and I'm an ambassador. And so I give presentations like these at my high school, just lessons on my Questbridge, and to really apply, because they not only just focus on your achievement, but also your background and where you've come from, which the ComNat might not exactly highlight. So it's a good opportunity just to let your mentees have that extra boost or have that extra drive to apply to college. Any questions about what Questbridge is?
Could you give a little background on what Questbridge actually is?
Okay, so Questbridge was started by Michael McCullough. It's actually a scholarship. We'll start out as a scholarship in a way. So students apply in September, late September, and at the end, if they're selected as a college, so first, if they're matched or they get into the college through Questbridge and they're a partner, they receive full financial aid in terms of tuition and room and board. So it's very similar to kind of getting to Stanford as a local student. However, when you apply to Questbridge through the college match and you don't get in to a school that you select as one of the Questbridge partner colleges, you actually are not rejected. You can either be accepted or kind of put on hold, I could say. And if you're put on hold, colleges will actually look at your application again, and they'll reconsider it in addition to your Questbridge application and your ComNat application. So I know that Stanford did the same thing for me. That's your question?
If you were matched with a school, can you still apply on the ComNat afterwards if you get into it?
Yes, so it's so several colleges are binding, several are not. For ones that are non-binding, if you got matched to a school, you can still apply to ComNat. So you still have time to apply to Common App. And I think this is a really good thing because if your mentee applies to Questbridge, and even if they don't get in, even if they don't become a finalist, they actually still have the application essay like fleshed out, and they can even improve it, or they can just keep it and use it for Common App, use it forever, use it for scholarships. And that's what I actually did. I used a lot of my essays for Questbridge for scholarships.
And that's like a big thing because like a lot of the mentees I know last year, they were like devastated. They have like their own Facebook group. And, like people who did get in questions are like real devastated, like trashed it and stuff. But then they're like, it wasn't over. You know what I mean? So like just make sure you explain it, like, especially if you're a mentee, if any of your mentees are applying to Questbridge, make sure that they know like it's not the end of the world if they don't get it. Don't say that the first thing, like, hey, I want to apply to Questbridge. Boom. If you don't get it, like it's okay. Don't say that. Like make sure that they know it's not the end of the world if you don't get it.
Yeah, something to add to that, like I was the same, did Questbridge, like didn't get into the process, but Questbridge itself, the application has a ton of essays, and it has a lot of partner colleges. So the best thing about that is even if you don't get matched, they send that application to all of those partner colleges. So essentially you get extra essays, if that makes sense. So like in that sense, it's a great resource in order to add to your overall application to all the colleges.
And also in addition, any of those schools that you apply to through Questbridge, the college application is actually waived. So the fee for applying to that college is waived. In addition to like sending SAT scores and things like that, those are all pretty much waived. So it will produce a very low cost student if they apply.
Is there any reason not to like encourage all of our mentees to apply to it?
Yes, so if your mentee is not low income, which several of them may or may not be, they cannot apply. They would have to look on the site and like kind of ask the parents to talk to their parents about what that kind of looks like. So.
And also there are only certain schools.
Certain colleges,
Yeah. So there's several private colleges that they can actually apply to. They are all private. So UCs don't work, CSUs don't work, and several out-of-state colleges won't work.
And the deadline is extremely early. Yeah.
So let's say like there's private institutions on here and you like select them. Is it like ranked, or because like let's say there's like 3 schools on here and you really want to go to one of them, but you select all 3 and you don't get it, like it's binding, so you have to go there. Like you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So I mean, all these details I think that we're all going to send them. They're also available on the site and give a very well-detailed flowchart. But pretty much how it works is through the National College Match, you're able to actually apply and rank the colleges that you would rather that your mentee would want to go to. So let's say they choose Stanford, Princeton, Haverford. From there, if they don't get into Stanford and Haverford and Princeton say yes, then they'll get into Princeton through the match. That doesn't mean that if they forward the application to Haverford, they won't get in. It just means that they were matched to only one college. So it's the top tier, it's the highest college that you ranked. If they are not admitted through that process, they actually forward to the regular acquisition process. Any more questions?